Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about philosophy. More about philosophy in general than any specific philosophy, and a topic that's very personally important to me. The short version of that is that I think you do yourself a disservice when you commit to some sort of ism, when you hard lock yourself into some sort of belief or group or some sort of overarching philosophy. You sell yourself short. That's not exactly the same thing as saying that all philosophy is meaningless or that it's all wrong or that there's anything with identifying with some philosophy or using it for practical life advice and help for some particular reason, but there definitely is overlap between liking a philosophy and hard committing to the philosophy. If you've already noticed by now, the gameplay is going to be Call of Duty Black Ops 4 just because I've got a lot of it and I haven't been able to show it off, but this is just an important topic for me. And those of you in the audience that have watched my videos for a long time might say, but Drifter, you love philosophical smarty pants stuff. You literally are these things. Are you saying that you too are wrong? What's wrong with accepting a philosophy as a personal philosophy of your own? And I'm going to say the danger is that when you make that ism or that belief a part of yourself, you lose another part of who you are. One of the most important things that you can do in life is to understand yourself. To truly know your inner self, you want to know who you are, how you work, how you think, what you value, how you feel, your limitations, your strengths, your weaknesses. You really want to understand yourself, to know how you fit in your society, in your world, how your mind works, the things you can and can't handle. And knowing how you as a person is built will most likely help you understand how other people think, how they value things, how they could be different. Or if you can imagine yourself in one way, then you can change out one part with somebody so very like yourself, but maybe with one thing different, and you can kind of get an idea of how they would think and how they would feel and how they would act. And knowing these things makes you a grounded person. And similarly to this, I think that the biggest sin of all, and this is just a personal belief of mine, not a religious one, is to lie to yourself. Lying to yourself is the biggest sin that you can possibly commit. Self-delusion is a dangerous thing. It tricks you into false sense of confidence, false strengths and weaknesses, false ideas about who you are and how you fit into the world. And it's very kind of sad to see somebody that's very deluded and very into their own self and into their own ego, and they don't have any perspective of who they are or why they are. And as much as self-discovery is great and all, I could talk about that for about 15 different videos, there's a lot to this world outside of you. I could sit here and know myself top to bottom better than anybody ever could all day and be a little Zen master, but that wouldn't really mean that I know anything about the outside world. There's 7.5 billion people on this planet. It's 7.4 now, but I'm planning ahead. 7.5 billion people who are not you. There are 7.5 billion not yous. Each one of these people have their entirely own different makeup. They have different wants, different desires, different backgrounds, different biases, experiences, height, weight, ability, disability, cultural differences, religious differences, totally different upbringing and experiences. Even two people racially, ethnically, geographically, income level very similar, born side by side to similar families in the same apartment will be different. You can't have the same life as everybody else. That's just the nature of what it means to be alive. There's also billions upon billions of animals. They vastly outnumber us if we haven't killed them all eventually in the future. Plants, natural sciences of a million different types, electricity, gravity, atoms, light, fluid mechanics. There's so much complicated stuff in this world that has nothing to do with you or your inner self or your self-knowledge or any of that sort of stuff. And the natural world simply doesn't conform to what you want. It simply is. You can't want the ocean to do something or to behave in some predictable way. The ocean's going to do whatever it damn well pleases because it's the ocean and it's a big ball of random water that's sloshing around with billions of animals in it with pressures and gravities and pulls from 1,000 different things that we can't even calculate without blowing up the world's biggest supercomputer. It's just random and uncontrollable. Though there is some science to it. You can understand it a little better, you can get a grasp of it, you can get a little prediction of it. But again, it's not going to fit into a box or a textbook. Following this train of thought, very many well-intentioned people have studied themselves, the people around them, other religions, philosophies, political groups, the natural world, and they've all sought to try to find some sort of order to it, some sort of grand overarching order, a big equation to life, a fundamental rule, or a philosophy, mind you. And the end result of these thousands of people studying many different things over times and places is that we have thousands of different philosophies currently in existence in the world, most of which honestly are well-rounded. Even though this video is criticizing philosophy in general, most of the philosophies that you'll learn about today are pretty well-rounded. Some quick examples: absolutism, Buddhism, Calvinism. God, I don't want to talk about Calvinism and predestination. Capitalism, very popular in the Western world. Darwinism, and against religion. Existentialism, Gnosticism, who needs to know things? Humanism, Islamic philosophy, liberalism, metaphysical philosophy, not a science, a philosophy, progressivism, spiritualism, Taoism, and of course, Zen philosophy. Very straightforward sort of things. I'm sure you've all seen them before. Each one of these philosophies has many, many followers, and they're all well-rounded, they're deep, they're complex. There's enough in them to fill a small library of books full of ideas explaining the world according to Taoism or metaphysical philosophy or something like that. And even though I'm not going to agree with all of these at once, obviously you can't because they're conflicting, each one of them has some kind of value because it explains at least something very well. If it didn't explain that thing, if it did nothing, if it was completely useless, we just wouldn't keep it. That's the nature of people. However, each one of these philosophies is in some way fundamentally flawed because the world does not adhere to our beliefs, our big beliefs, and in many cases not even our small or specific beliefs. Therefore, if you make decisions based on any of these big popular philosophies, they're subject to errors ranging from insignificant to huge, depending on the application and the circumstance. These are kind of big examples against less popular philosophies like Taoism and spiritualism and things like that, and these are things that most of us would agree with. Most of us would not go around making every decision in our life based on Calvinism or Islamic philosophy or something like that. But I want to pull this video back down to reality. I want to come back down to the ground level where real human beings live and give you something a little bit closer to home and the idea that inspired this video, which is identity politics. Isn't that the greatest thing ever? Everybody wants to hear about liberals and conservatives arguing. We're not going to do that. We're going to look at it from a totally different perspective. We're not picking sides today. The short version of identity politics, at least how we're using that term today, is a person who so strongly identifies with their political group, or honestly, really even any group whatsoever, or philosophy, that they feel that they are that thing. It's not, I like the way this group thinks. It's not, I agree with this group. It is, I am this group. I'm not just a part of this group. I am this group. It is me through and through this group. I am conservative. I am a liberal. I literally am the embodiment of gay rights. I am police power. I am whatever you want to fill in the blank. That's what you become, and that's what your ego, in your head at least, wants you to become and think and do and feel. It also comes with a huge pill of conformity to swallow, or maybe take rectally for some people. Many people among us, myself included, I can't sit here on my high horse and pretend that I'm immune to this. I have made these mistakes, I've played this game, I've done this thing, learned from my mistakes and moved on. I try not to do it much anymore, but lots of people don't like to think for themselves. Rather, they will look to the group that they belong in, or group that they most strongly identify with, for advice. That group can be cosplayers, that group can be furries on Tumblr, that group can be guns rights activists, that group can be quadriplegics if that's your life. It's just whatever group you're a part of, that's who you look to for advice on how to think. And in many scenarios, when a person commits to that philosophy or that group or that idea, they never ask themselves, what do I think about this thing? What do I think about this experience? What do I think about this idea? But rather they ask, what does the ism think? What does the conservatism think? The liberalism think? The ableism think? The any ism, any group? What does the philosophy think about this so that I don't have to think for it? And they never see if it matches who they are internally. It never check to see if it matches their own self, because they may not truly know themselves, or even really the outside world around them. They just kind of ignore that, which is a scary and dangerous thing when you look at environmental issues. Over time, a great number of people also commit to this group in a very tribal kind of way. They like to draw imaginary battle lines of us versus them and good versus bad. And truly, they really are imaginary lines based on egos that are afraid of being hurt, that have kind of aligned in different camps. And we're going to talk about the ego a little bit. It's a little Freudian, a little bit out of date, but the general idea is that your brain, your conscious and subconscious, does not like being hurt. It doesn't like being wrong. Egos like to be in control. Egos like to have things fit in nice little boxes and be in textbooks. Egos or people in general, we don't like to feel small. We don't like to feel afraid of some big threat. We don't like to feel like we're ignorant, like we don't understand the world. We don't like to feel weak. We don't like to feel alone and socially isolated. We seek to feel smart, powerful, in control, part of a big group, and committing our minds to philosophies or groups or politics or isms, especially big popular ones, fulfills all of these groups. You won't feel small when you're part of a big group. You are that thing. You're an appendage of that thing, so you're big. You don't have to be afraid of anything because there are people there to back you up when you're in trouble. You don't have to feel ignorant because there are people to tell you that whatever you believe is completely correct. You don't have to feel weak for the same reason that you don't have to feel small. And you never have to be alone because you have people there to agree with you. However, our egos will betray our own true best intentions just so that they can stay contented and not be hurt. They will betray your own self-knowledge, the understanding of the world around you, even a lot of times your own, what's the right word for this, best decisions, best scenario, best choices, best interest, in order to not feel hurt, in order to not feel so small and alone. The ideal person, and there are very few of these, would be the opposite. It would be a person that knows themselves very well, has some understanding of the outside world, the natural sciences. You can't be an expert on all these things, but you've got kind of some idea on how these things work. And when they make a decision, they make a decision based on their own beliefs. And even referencing a philosophy or a political group or something is okay with this. But they check what they believe, what they know themselves, the world, the philosophies they like, and they see if this thing fits with them. They see how it settles with their own mind, with their own understanding and belief. And then they decide to align themselves in larger political groups if actions are needed. I guess this is sort of a less personally affiliated politics instead of lumping people into big camps. However many ways you want to split the pie, the spectrum is too big to lump people in 40 camps, much less 2. And not one person among us will be able to do this personally, but the next time you encounter new information, next time there's a hot topic, a new science, and you find yourself saying, I wonder what, and you're going to think of some group, whatever group you're a part of. What is my group? Think about this. You need to stop yourself for just a second and say, you know what? First, let's figure out what I think about this. I want to learn how I feel about this, how I understand it, and then I'm going to see how well I fit with any particular group that's out there if further action is needed. So guys, I hope there's something in this video somewhere along the way that you learned. I hope that you found it enlightening, useful, helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.